Hello and welcome to the MFL draft show here on Sofa Sports TV. I'm joined by Noah Underhill. Well, he's actually on this side. I don't know why I'm gesturing this way. He's on this side as we're done with the first round. So we have the first round recap of the first ever MFL draft. How are you doing today, Noah?
I'm doing pretty well. This was a very entertaining process. I mean, we do have a bit of a longer wait for these picks than most professional leagues do, but it has been interesting throughout the day yesterday, just seeing things come through and seeing the interesting choices that our franchises are making.
Yeah, there was some that I expected, some that I didn't expect, but we'll get right into it. We have 6 picks to cover and recap for you today. The first one, so the Jaguars had the first pick. Obviously, Brett owning his first team. Then you have on the staff. I know Jacob Clear's on the staff. You have Jake on the staff. And I wasn't too surprised here. They went with the star of the UFS, Ben Gray, 5'11", 232. He played for the Axemen season 1 of the UFS and was absolutely electric. He had 1,500 yards on the ground, and they won the championship off of his back. What do you think of this pick?
I mean, I think it's hard to debate that he wasn't the best player on the board. Like, he was dominant, well above any of the other running backs in the UFS. I know there was some concern when the UFS folded and then they were joining up, and we were seeing players from the WFA join, that maybe the UFS players wouldn't be as talented. But this is the one guy that you knew was going to be better than anybody that you can get. Like, he is playing far and away the best one. Now, the question does become, was this the best strategy for this point in the round? It is a running back going number 1 overall. You are putting all of your eggs in that basket. So even though he is the best, maybe you could have got him at the end of the second, maybe. I don't know. But he was obviously, if he's not the best, he's definitely top 5. And I do think that this was a really solid pick as far as production is going to be concerned.
Yeah, it's really hard to argue it. I do think from the information I have, insider information, I don't think he would have made it out of the first round. So I think if you wanted Ben Gray, you had to take him here. But I agree. He's a running back. He is 25 because he was in the UFS, then the UFS folded. You had the couple years in between. So 25 years old. It's kind of old to take a running back, but still, you're going to have a couple years of elite production from Ben Gray, or at least you hope you will, moving on to this new league. Like we mentioned too, there's not just UFS players here. Old WFA legends for you WFA fans are in here. Some guys that you will recognize from earlier in their careers. And it's interesting, though, none of them got picked in the top 3, as the number 2 selection in the draft was quarterback Alex Rose. And he was on the Corn Kings with the UFS season 1. What do you think about this pick?
Well, as I was going to say about Gray, he's showed up really well in our minor football league. That is kind of a invitation for prospects to show off a little of what they can do, and Gray really felt like he needed to do that. Alex Rose, on the other hand, he decided he wasn't going to accept the invitation. He wasn't going to play in the minor leagues, and I think this is why. I think he knew that he was going to be taken with this spot number 2, so he didn't feel like he needed to show off his skills anymore. Of course, he is familiar with the coaching staff that is around, obviously coming from Des Moines, and now Zach is the head showrunner here. And maybe he has been considered, and I know you've been telling me a lot about this, is he is maybe the best UFS quarterback that is coming over. So I did think that this was another interesting pick, another thing of like, is this the best strategy? We have a lot of quarterbacks in here, a lot of guys who are going to be very talented. So do you take a quarterback number 1, or do you try to take a position that maybe isn't as full as quarterback, but if you're going to take one, this is probably the guy.
Yeah, and you mentioned comparing him to the WFA guys. Our analytics team here at Sofa Sports graded him out as the second best quarterback between the WFA and the UFS ever. when it comes to a single season production. He only came behind season 6 Nathan Peterman, which we know how good Nathan Peterman was. Alex Rose right there behind him, and really the only guy who held a candle to Nate Peterman in our analytics. And like you said, hard to argue with this pick. Alex Rose, 25 years old, and now 25 years old as a running back, not the same as 25 years old for a quarterback. Alex Rose, plenty of time ahead of him. You mentioned the familiarity here with Zach Holdorf. I think that it's a great cornerstone for your franchise, finding that quarterback. And I wasn't surprised to see Zach go back to the well and get his old quarterback. I knew they had a good relationship. So good to see him go early in this draft. And that takes us to our third pick. And I know this was a top 2 guy on this team's board. The Chargers selected at number 3 Ray Boone, quarterback from Alaska, from the UFS. He was 6'1", 126, 196. Excuse me, 26 would be really, really light. 196, 25 years old. And I know he wanted Ben Gray. Ben Gray went first. Alex Rose goes second, dropping Ray Boone into his lap. And now Alex Rose may be the best quarterback from the UFS, but if you have to pick a second best quarterback, it's probably Ray Boone.
And I've liked what I've seen from Ray. He had a very solid preseason. In the couple games that were shown, in the couple games that we were able to see, some behind the scenes games that were ran, I think that he has done very solidly. The question becomes, how much better is he than the other people, like we were talking about with Rose? And the questions are going to be, can he be consistent? We've seen in some of the games he wasn't as elite. He was struggling to complete passes at times, but he also has had visions of greatness. And another thing to consider, he's always played with Ben Gray. All the way back to college, he was playing with Ben Gray. So it's a thing of, can he do it when he's dealing with a new set of team? And he's the guy. Obviously, if you're the first pick, you are supposed to be the best player on the team. So when you don't have a talent like Ben Gray backing you up, are you going to be that elite force? But we'll have to see. And can he be the leader that the team expects him to be? I think it's all to be seen. And you would obviously know more than I would. But I think there's some questions, but I do think that he's a solid pick here.
Yeah, you covered it pretty well. I mean, you look at him between next to Alex Rose. Alex Rose statistically had a better season, 31 touchdowns to 19. They both had 13 picks. Alex Rose completed 77% of his passes in the UFS. Ray Boone completed 70. Both were very accurate. But like you mentioned, the big caveat here is that Ray Boone didn't have to carry his team. Ben Gray carried his team. So how will he do when he is the number 1 guy on his team? And that remains to be seen for the Chargers. We'll see who they wrap around him. But now, capping off a string of 3 quarterbacks getting selected in a row, the Seahawks came up and, not gonna lie, it surprised us all a little bit. They took 33-year-old quarterback from the WFA, legend of the Wolfpack, legend of the Tokyo Titans, legend of the Detroit Fury, Nick Molyneux, 6'3", 170 at number 4 overall.
Yeah, this was a really big shock. We were together when this pick came through, and it really just shook everything that we knew. I mean, we didn't really have an idea of where Seattle was going to go, but it was a big surprise that Molyneux was the guy that they go to. As you mentioned, he did play in the WFA for a long time. He was a player that came in right as the league was starting in season 1. He was a part of the 0-9 Wolfpack, the legendary curse team. And so he didn't really show up great early in his career. Once he made it to Tokyo, he was averaging around 65% completion rate. He did have a season where he had 4,000 yards, but he's usually a guy that's going to be around the same touchdowns to picks, probably around an 80 QBR. But here's the thing. He hasn't played as a starter in a few years. I know the guy personally. He's done a lot of work behind the scenes to build his reputation up. He's really worked on making sure he's using his speed to his advantage. This is a guy who is a scrambler type, but never really got to show that in the offenses he was in. He was specifically told over and over again, don't use your legs, just focus on being a passer. and he's trying to get away from that. He's really expanded his capability. So that's where he's been working the last couple of years, and now that he's here, he's trying to use this new play style in a better way. Um, and he is used to working with a new team. He's played on several different teams, several different franchises with several different coaches. He's shown that he can be a good leader in that way. He's going to be the captain of this team, obviously, one of the older players in the league and a quarterback. So and there are a lot of older players in this draft, especially from the WFA. They're 33. But if you're a quarterback, you could still play at a high level for several years. So if you're giving if you're giving this the grade that you would for a lot of other positions, he's still technically in his prime, and we'll see how long that lasts. But I'm expecting Nick Molyneux to have his best professional football season here in the UFS, in the MFL.
I agree with that. Molo. One thing that I think he gets a little bit overhated. He did have some legendarily bad moments. As if you want to know any of them, just go talk to the owner of the Wolfpack, Jake Molyneux. He has a few that he can share with you. But the thing about Nick is when he played in the minor leagues here, the couple games he played, he was solid and he looked fairly good in those. And so I think you have to view him as a new quarterback, a new chapter of his career. Concerns I have for him, you mentioned his age combined with scrambling more. I worry about him getting hurt and putting his body out there. But the thing is, remember, first round picks, they come with a 3-year deal here in the MFL. So you're looking at where is this guy going to be in 3 years. Nick Molyneux is going to be 36, a little bit older, but still can be a good, valuable quarterback. And so this could be a solid pick. This could be kind of a sleeper pick that we come back to and go, dang, that was a lot better than we thought. At the moment, though, I got to say, I think that was a little too high. I think Nick Molyneux, you could have got him in the third, fourth, fifth rounds. I don't think that he would have gone as highly as he did. I don't think it's necessarily a bad selection, but I wouldn't say they got the best value for their pick.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's like we've been talking about with the strategy. Like, you have to know when guys are going to come off the board. You have to feel out your other owners, and that's something that I did when I was an owner in the WFA, and I still am. I usually do try to touch base with other owners, see where they're feeling, and you're not going to get everything you would want, but you can get an idea of how guys are feeling, and you can, like, if you're really paying attention, you have to know that this is a guy that's going to be around later. So maybe you do take the best offensive lineman available, as that is a position that isn't that deep. Maybe you take the best defensive player available, because there's some positions that you're going to have. If you wait long enough, it's going to be a struggle to find starting capable talent. This is, of course, picking up the pieces of players who are around, and that's how this league is going to start. So there's going to be some positions that aren't as good, and quarterback, you got plenty of quarterbacks. So maybe this is your guy. Maybe you see him as the guy that's going to be elite, and he's going to be able to play at a great high level for 6, 7, 8 years. Maybe you don't see these other young quarterbacks as anything, but you have to know that you're the only one that thinks like that. And I like the guy, obviously. I think he's going to have a solid career, as I said, but if you're the only one that's on an island, use that to your advantage.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Moving on to number 5 pick, we have the Washington Commanders selecting 6'6", 230, 28-year-old Michael McCaw, wide receiver. This is an interesting one because Michael McCaw has a lot of physical ability, and there's no questioning his talent when it comes to speed and just downfield threat. But there's also some concerns, isn't there?
Yeah, Mike McCaw, at one point in his college career, was considered the top receiver in his class and was expected to be taken in the first round, maybe even the first overall pick. That did shave off as he got more into the early draft process. He ended up sliding into the third round of the WFA draft, and he didn't really find his footing. He played with the teams that Scott Stover was coaching, and it didn't really work out. He had to he ended up down the depth chart and ended up leaving. He ended up with Green Bay, a team that we've talked about a couple different times. So he is familiar with that staff. He's never really gotten a great opportunity. His highest career yardage is 271 yards and 3 touchdowns, and that was with Oklahoma his first season. So he hasn't really gotten a chance to shine. He's been buried on depth charts, especially in Green Bay, where we know that they are known for their wide receivers and an awesome offense. So he's always been a guy that's been wanting to develop. And if you're stuck behind guys like Jefferson Fitzgerald or Colin Taylor, you're not going to see the field. And of course, with the owner of Washington being DB, I know that he was on that Green Bay staff as well, and he wanted to have McCaw be a part of that team and build into the next great Green Bay receiver. That didn't work out, but now he's getting the opportunity to use this guy. And since he's spending a top pick on him, you have to imagine he's going to be the target of this offense, and they're going to build it around him. So maybe we're finally going to see this number one overall potential that he's always had and see in this offense.
Yeah, well, it remains to be seen. I'm glad to see him get a chance. He obviously has the physical tools to succeed, and hopefully he gets a chance to show that. In this league, we'll have to see what Washington does. Overall, I give this pick. I think it's a solid pick. I think that we've seen early that people are going for familiarity. And you have that familiarity with a guy. It goes a lot, especially in a draft like this where there isn't a lot of film on these guys recently. So don't hate the pick. Michael McCaw goes 5th. Final pick of the first round, and the final pick we're going to review in this video. It's Tom Jones going 6th overall to the Cowboys. Running back, 5'9", 207, 25 years old. Another 25-year-old running back going in the first round, Noah.
Yeah, and this is another guy that we haven't really seen very much. As we were discussing before, he wasn't a starter for the UFS last year. Now, he was a very talented back, and a lot of people thought that he could be, but he just didn't see the field that often. And he also didn't play in the minors, which is a surprise to me. I thought a guy like this would be looking for that opportunity, but he didn't end up playing. So this is a guy that you don't really know a lot. And he's really just I've heard that he's really impressed in the pre-draft interviews and workouts. So he does have a lot of talent, and I've seen him in training. He is very solid, and I wouldn't say that because we don't have the tape that he isn't a good prospect. I think he definitely is up there. I mean, there are some people that I would have thought are more of a sure bet if you're looking at the running back position, but knowing Logan and Dallas the way I do, they're going to want to run the ball, and this is the guy that they think is going to be able to do that for them.
Yeah, really interesting selection there for Dallas, and I obviously know you're Noah. Logan sees something in him because we know Logan loves his running backs. We know he had Claude Owens for years, so seeing what he'll do with Tom Jones is going to be really interesting, I think, because this is a guy who had a lot of glowing praise come from his training staff and his coaching staff that he was a lot more talented than people gave him credit for. And so you see him going up high in this draft, and hopefully he can live up to that potential. But that's all the picks. Go ahead. Sorry, I'm cutting you off.
Yeah, I was just saying, remind me who he was on the team of.
Palmer Jacobs. He was behind Palmer Jacobs on the Corn Kings. And Corn Kings.
So that's a
good
maybe
team.
He gave a call to Zach and was like, hey, how's this guy looking? So.
Yeah, exactly. You never know. But this time, without cutting you off, I'll say that that's all the picks we're going to review in this video. First round, done. Second round, snake draft. So Cowboys, then Commanders, Seahawks, Chargers, then Vikings, and Jaguars. Stay tuned for that. We'll update you with that video once we get to that point in the draft. But this is the MFL on Sofa Sports. I am Liam. That's Noah. And we'll see you next time.